What if NFL teams could be relegated just like the English Premier League? In England and many other European soccer leagues around the world, the teams that finish with the worst records can be relegated and sent down to a lower tier of competition. This means that they miss out on massive TV contracts, merchandise deals, sponsorships, and even often lose some of their best players as they want to remain in the top league playing against the best players in the world. The teams that finish at the top of the second tier, known as the Championship in England, allows them to get promoted into the Premier League, and this can often be some of the biggest moments in club history. Could the NFL implement a similar system? The concept of promotion and relegation is extremely interesting and has some massive benefits when it comes to league interest. First and foremost, the concept of tanking does not and cannot exist within this league structure. If teams were purposely going to be bad or tank to get a better draft pick, they would likely get relegated, and they would have huge financial consequences for doing so. Getting relegated can often destroy teams, and it can be a struggle to get promoted back into the top tier for teams that get relegated from the Premier League. Additionally, it makes the end of the season very competitive, where every game truly does matter. No more snooze fests between Davis Mills and the Texans versus the Sam Ehlinger-led Colts meaning absolutely nothing, with nobody wanting to watch that game. Now that could be the difference between the Texans or the Colts staying in the NFL and really being able to generate that league revenue and all of the benefits of being in the top tier. It rewards teams for trying to be competitive and punishes those that really are not striving to put the best possible team on the field. This is a very interesting concept, as some big teams including the Chicago Bears, Houston Texans, and Arizona Cardinals would have been relegated if this were the Premier League, as they were the three worst teams in the league. This would give new teams a chance to come into the NFL and really establish themselves as one of the best franchises in the sport. Another big benefit of the Premier League promotion and relegation model is that it allows ample opportunities for players all across the league. Some guys that may be at the back end of a roster or perhaps have flamed out at the NFL would get another chance to really strive in the lower tiers of NFL football. For example, Zach Wilson, who is considered a huge bust at the NFL level, could become the star quarterback of a second-tier team and prove that he deserves to be a starting quarterback in the NFL, and it would be a great reclamation project for one of these teams trying to generate interest in the second tier. As the sport continues to grow, there would just be more opportunities for front office executive, coaches, practice squad players to really show their abilities and show that they deserve a shot at the top tier of NFL football. Now, the English soccer system is set up much differently from the NFL, as there are many more teams in the English system. There are 4 tiers of kind of recognized professional leagues, with 20 teams in the Premier League and 24 teams in the next 3 tiers. It also goes beyond those tiers, and there are a ton more divisions that are of lower quality there, but that essentially is going to be the English football pyramid and what it looks like. The NFL or American football pyramid would need to expand massively. Even if they were going to reduce the NFL to 20 teams to match the Premier League, they would need to add probably 8 to 10 more teams to really make any kind of relegation sense and kind of complete a second tier of American football. If they decided to keep 32 NFL teams like there currently are, they would likely need to add 15 to 20 new teams in a second tier to make the promotion and relegation system make sense. They could always look to combine with the XFL or USFL and use some of those teams, but as they are separate leagues, they share some of the same cities as the NFL, it might make more sense for the NFL just to expand on its own and maybe move into some new markets that could really generate some new fan interest. Essentially, the sport would need to be pushed on a much wider scale and could include expansions to cities all across North America. Another key difference is that there is no draft in the English soccer system. Players typically sign through youth academies at a very young age, and they are developed through that system. They often play in leagues based on their age and really come up through that team's system. They eventually can work their way into the starting lineup for that Premier League team, or can be transferred to another team via the global transfer market. This is where teams from all across the world and all of the different divisions within the English soccer system can purchase and sell players or acquire new talent that helps them eventually get promoted or win championships. This is obviously a very different system from the NFL, as the NFL currently has the draft as a direct pipeline of college talent into the league directly. You could still have some variation of the draft as we know it in the NFL, with the newly promoted teams getting the benefit of picking finishing first, but it would need to allow the second tier teams or championship level teams to really go out and acquire some talent through the draft as well. Otherwise, they would never have a fighting chance of making it in the NFL. The system would also potentially run into issues, as there would be no direct assets that the teams would be able to trade unless they decided to go more with the European soccer system, where they directly trade funds for players. This would potentially cause some issues, as it would cause financial equity, and big market teams such as the Jets, Giants, Cowboys, and Bears would have much more financial capital to use when acquiring talent when compared to the smaller market teams such as the Bengals, Colts, Browns, or Lions. A version of the salary cap model to limit player purchases could still be implemented to prevent excessive spending by big market teams, but it would still need to allow for trading amongst both the second tier and the NFL divisions for it to make any sense at all. Another major downside of promotion and relegation is that it can destroy division and league rivalries. Teams such as the Browns and the Steelers might not be able to play every year, as the Browns likely would have been relegated many times over. It would likely prevent some of the teams playing on a yearly basis and would likely destroy some of the current rivalries that already exist in the NFL. With all of that in mind, this is how I would set up a promotion and relegation system. I would reduce the NFL to 20 teams. On this list here, that would be the cutoff, with the Jets just sneaking in and all of the other teams being relegated to the second tier, just for the initial setup. In the NFL, each team would play every other team once during the year, so they would have 19 total games. You could have multiple bye weeks to ensure that players can last all of that season. There would be an 8-team tournament to determine a Super Bowl champion. There would be no conferences or divisions, and the bottom 3 teams in the standings would get relegated to the second tier. In the second tier, you would have 20 teams as well. Those would include the 12 relegated teams initially coming from the NFL, plus 8 expansion franchises as well. I think these 8 expansion franchises could possibly be in Austin, Texas, Mexico City, Mexico, Omaha, Nebraska, Toronto, Canada, Vancouver, Canada, San Diego, California, Portland, Oregon, and Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, but certainly not something that needs to be set in stone there. The league can expand to both Canada and Mexico in this system, while keeping travel reasonable and adding teams to new markets to create new passionate fan bases without expanding overseas to, say, London or Europe. Every year, 3 teams from the second division would get promoted, and then 3 teams would be relegated from the NFL, and you can add the American element of the playoffs to determine which teams get to make the jump to the NFL from the second tier, rather than just going from the regular season standings like they do currently in England. The top 8 teams in the second tier could make the playoffs, with the championship winner getting the first overall pick in the next year's draft. There would also be a third place game that determines the final team that gets promoted, which would likely be one of the biggest games of the entire season. The draft order would look something like this, with the first pick going to the second tier champion, second pick going to the second tier runner-up, third pick going to the second tier third place, and then finally all of the NFL teams going in descending order, having the picks after that. This is a way that the team that finishes at the top of the second tier gets a huge advantage, as they get the first overall pick. You get rewarded for finishing higher than lower in the second tier, and then the teams with the worst record in the NFL still have that competitive balance ability to go ahead and acquire good talent. This would potentially mean that some of the top teams in the NFL do struggle to replenish their talent a bit more, but you have to remember as well, this is only going to be 20 teams drafting per round, so there is going to be more talent there, and additionally, they will have more financial resources than the teams in the second tier as well, so that they can continue to replenish their talents as well. Beginning in the 4th round of the draft, the second tier teams would also get to make selections going first, so those 20 teams would get to select before any of the NFL teams. This allows them to really kind of maintain a level of talent on their roster, so they don't get absolutely steamrolled when they get promoted to the NFL. This ensures that the second team has some access to young talent, but that the NFL still largely has a big advantage, as they will have the first 3 rounds of picks to go ahead and choose from. Second tier teams could have something like 60 to 70% of the total cap allocation or transfer budget of NFL teams. This would be a way that they could still remain competitive and keep players that wish to stay loyal to them when they get relegated, but also does punish them for being relegated to the lower tier. Ultimately, while promotion and relegation is a very interesting idea, and I do think you could create a system where it would work in the NFL football landscape, there is no chance that it will ever be implemented in the NFL with how the league is currently set up. The NFL is a franchise model where any kind of rules or new decisions get voted on by the team owners, and they would never agree to something that would threaten their ability to make money and potentially get relegated into the second tier of football. It would make no sense from a financial perspective, as currently all 32 teams receive equal shares of merchandise, leasing, TV contracts, so there's no real financial incentive to create a promotion or relegation model, and these teams would never agree to potentially missing out on that income of being in the NFL. While we know that it will never happen, it is always fun to look at the possibilities of what the NFL might look like if it was set up a bit differently. Let me know down below, would you like this promotion and relegation system? If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button. Just a free and easy way to support the channel, lets YouTube know that you enjoyed it and helps push it out to other NFL fans just like you. While you're down there, please hit that subscribe button as well. Trying to reach 1,000 subscribers by the beginning of next season. Would truly appreciate any support there as well. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think down below. I hope you have a great rest of your day. I'll catch you in the next one.